Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and this is my Memory 1 through 5 team composition guide for version 1.0. Do stay tuned, I'll be doing 6 and beyond as well on the channel, so do check back if you like the format of this video as well. Now, how we're going to do this is, you can find it the timestamps Memory of Chaos 1 all the way to 5. Just click on the one that you require. How we're going to do it is, the free-to-play characters are in the large icons, and whichever alternative I think is going to be good for that particular slot, I'll put it in the bottom right. These are like gacha 5 stars, or for example gacha 4 stars, because not everyone have them. And if you don't have any gacha characters, you can just follow the recommendations in the large icons. But of course, mix and match accordingly based on your requirements. It's more important to go with your account. If you have like a 5-star, 2 5-star main DPSs, form teams around there instead and pair them up with these free-to-play defender light units in your respective slots as well. Okay, so Memory of Chaos 1. How this works is you want to go with win weakness DPSs in the first set, and ideally you want to go for physical weakness in the second set. So this is my recommendation for Memory of Chaos 1. I will go with DPS like Dan Heng. I think he works super well. If you, for example, maybe don't have Dan Heng build, you can of course go with other Han characters. The first half here generally doesn't have too much like spam of monsters. You will do very well if your main, like if you have a very strong Han class DPS, put them in your first half. It should settle a lot of difficulty as well. Here I just left, for example, Herta here as a free-to-play option, but of course you can run any of these other options you have as well. And in the second half here, I recommend Susang as the first primary DPS. Honestly, like Susang is a gacha, so I'll probably put it in like a small icon as well. You could run physical MC, for example, if you really wanted to, but that means you won't have, for example, fire MC here. So there's like some stuff to consider as well. You might get away with a little bit of freeze on this half if you really wanted to, but by and large, if you have Susang, play Susang here together with Clara in this set. Physical does very well here as well. Other than that, you can rely on your AoE DPS. For example, those of you who put Jingyuan, he will work well in the second half as well. And these are the recommendations for the supports I have. That's for Memory of Chaos 1 in terms of the team compositions. Go ahead and take a look in the options as well. Just pair them up as and when your account needs to. Memory of Chaos 2. Now, Memory of Chaos 2, the first half here, there's no recommended element because Ice, I highly recommend you put in your second half instead. The reason why first half is not much element, as long as you have Cleanser here, the Stormbringer boss doesn't really do too much damage. For those of you who want to know more in-depth mechanics guide on this boss, I already have it on the channel. Go check it out. It's like how to defeat Stormbringer. I teach more in detail of Memory of Chaos 9 for the boss mechanics. And out of like the roster, I think that Dan Heng, even though it's win into win, will still be probably pretty decent here. You won't have like a ton of monsters that he summons. Doesn't really summon much this boss. So a good single target DPS, like for example Zealer, Yanqing, Hook even, will be able to settle this boss quite well as well. In terms of the second slot, your Erudition character, I think Qingque will be okay here because you want to use more of your Herta as well as Serval in the second slot, which it deals very, very well with the boss weaknesses as well. I think these two will be better in this slot, and for example, you can run any of these other characters here as well. I know win into win is a bit counterintuitive, but believe me, a lot of your the DPSs that can do damage here, a lot of them are like gacha, coming from your gacha Han characters. For example, you have any of these, they will likely do a lot of damage. Other than that, if you have, for example, Susang, you can also bring her up. I think here is this first set is really where your Han character shines. The second set is where your Erudition character shines, because this monster here summons a lot of small mobs as well. A lot of small mobs are on the battlefield too, so those are some things to consider. This will be like more of my set routine, and if you have any of these other characters, feel free to like swap them around. Just want to go for one main DPS, one Han, one Han, one Erudition, and go in that order, and you should be more or less fine as well. Only exception is if you're running Jingyuan, you can consider maybe running like a double hyper carry of Estar as well as Tingyuan into Jingyuan. Will do quite a lot of damage as well. Memory of Chaos 3. Now, Memory of Chaos 3, I recommend you split your Ice now is in the first half, and your second half is going to be more of like a Fire Quantum type. Here, if you notice, I brought Clara up. I think Clara could also see some value in the bottom half, but I think why I put it here is you don't want to play Clara and Fire MC in the same slot generally, because she offers a lot of aggro drawing and damage reduction already and pairs very nicely with March 7 here in this roster. So I think one of the recommended team comps here, if you don't have Clara, you can run with free-to-play units like Herta here, who offers a lot of freeze and break damage for these two bosses to give you a little bit more control as well. When you have more control in your first set who doesn't have like a team-wide healer, I think it's very, very strong because they won't be able to act much if they are frozen quite often too. Other than that, this first set is really more of like a single target damage fight. The second half I think is a little bit more AoE in nature, especially when you have a monster here that likes to summon. So those are some things that I'm factoring in, and that's why I put like the stronger single target damage dealers in the first set. And the second set, of course, you want to run Quantum as well as Fire if you can. You have a lot of Fire in Asta already, who benefits very well from the many Fire weakness enemies here. Qingque as Quantum does good amounts of break for both of these bosses, works very well. Serval handles AoE quite strongly and will be probably the free-to-play, how I'll allocate the free-to-play roster in terms of these 8 characters here in a team composition. Next up, Memory of Chaos 4. For those of you who saw like Memory of Chaos 1 and 4 are actually quite similar because of the weakness typing, which means I don't really need to delay the information. That generally you want to play a Danheng in the first half, and Susang, for example, we don't have her. Of course, ideally Susang works very well in the second half. You could run physical MC here if you really wanted to. Otherwise, if you are only playing free-to-play options, then I guess you will have to, for example, bring Qingque down and play her in this slot together with Serval as well. One thing to know, of course, Asta does drink a little bit of skill points, especially if there's not too many fire weakness enemies, and Qingque also does consume quite a bit of skill points, so you can consider switching, for example, Herta down and you can play Qingque here. Either way should be fine in terms of the free-to-play team composition. Alternatives that are available, I think that Clara works much better in the second set, clearly because of the physical weakness, and Tingyuan, a bit more AoE nature, will be better in the second half. The first half is mostly of a single target fight. The boss that you want to break down is this like main like mage, priest, oracle-like thing, which is why your stronger hunt characters should be in your first half, your better AoE characters should be in your second half, ideally. Of course, you still want a little bit of single target damage if you can find them too. Last but not least, let's talk about Memory of Chaos 5. Now, Memory of Chaos 5, I'll spend a bit more time on this since a lot of you might get stuck here before heading to Memory of Chaos 6 as well. I think that out of the two sets, the second half is going to be a bit trickier than the first half. The first half is very similar to what we saw in the earlier floors as well. A lot of it is just your hunt character bursting down as quickly as you can. I think the first half is your speed timer runner. So you want characters that can clear very, very quickly. If you don't take too much damage, you could possibly run multiple DPS characters here if you wanted to. I do like a very strong hunt character in the first half to settle these mobs. Danheng is a solid choice again. Of course, Zila does extremely well. A lot of the monsters here are quite squishy, the side monsters as well. Other than that, you want to run, for example, a good amounts of AoE here, damage. I think Bronya will likely work very well because you just want to hyper carry your main DPS, like even Danheng as well. But for those of us who are not lucky enough to have, for example, another character, I think these other characters are good options. Sampo also works well into a win weakness team if you're running Sampo as well. Other than that, I think in the second set, I don't really like characters like ice characters in this last lineup here in Memory of Chaos 5. The reason is because one side is a bit resistant to freeze, the other side is not. So generally, I a little bit more prefer the other elements for this stage, even though ice offers tons of control. For this stage, this is a bit tricky because this monster mechanics, actually you need to clear off the AoE units as quickly as you can. He will get a defense break if he's unable to eat any enemies. And here is you increase your damage by killing off the small explosive mobs to deal more damage on the target as well. Which is why I highly recommend like erudition characters in the second set, because you're able to break the side mobs very quickly to get more damage emphasis on the main character as well. I think Asta works very well here also because most of the monsters here weak to fire, means she gets more charges. Doesn't work as badly as with Qingque because she can just normal attack and still get some stacks up as well. But of course you won't be playing her at max value. They both do like to drink a bit of skill points. And if you have Jingyuan, play him in the second set. I think Zila works better in the first set as well. And I think there's a bit of a graphics thing here. I think it should be a lightning instead of quantum. If you found this like format helpful, I thought really hard about it, how to actually present the information, because there's so much variations in terms of comms that you guys are having. So I just wanted to do something that everyone can kind of understand. Let me know if it's helpful. I will do a follow-up 6 to 10 on this channel as well. Thanks so much for watching and see you in the next video.